Welcome to the pond, where birds swoop down for fish, frogs sing at dusk, and fish slip away like shadowy figures. And crayfish? Think armored medieval knights with pincers. Every creature brings not only ecological importance, but also world-building gold. So let's dive into the animals that not only feed your characters, but fuel your fiction. Welcome to Writing Rule with Allie, the fiction writer's inspiration station for rural life and lifestyles, from historical to post-apocalyptic, helping you bring your rule stories to life. I'm Allie, and this is episode number 111, 15 pond creatures every writer should know about. Stick around to the end to find out all the ways things could possibly go wrong in your story. Now, let's get into this. Number 1, frogs. Frogs are common in almost every body of fresh water, and ponds are no different. Now, different places around the world have different types of frogs, so research the area that you are writing about to make your story more realistic. I live in the US, so I'm going to cover what are found here, all of which can be found in my own pond. There are 3 main types of frogs, although each type has a subspecies. These are bullfrogs, leopard frogs, and tree frogs. Each type has its own unique sound and are often associated with the sounds of summer. Another thing that they all have in common is that their skin is sensitive to chemicals in the water. This will be important if you're writing a post-apocalyptic story, as frogs living in a body of water could potentially be a sign that the water is clean water, or at least the cleanest water in the area. Frogs all lay eggs in water, and the second stage of their life cycle is a tadpole. Tadpoles are important to the pond because they feed on the algae and decaying matter. This helps to keep the pond clean. Why is this important? Simply put, most types of algae are toxic to humans, pets, and livestock. It also depletes the amount of oxygen that is in a pond, and this will kill fish living in the pond. Never good in real life, but characters dying by algae might be an interesting twist. Let's cover some of these frogs. First up, the American bullfrog. They grow between 3.5 inches and 8 inches, and can be 2 to 3 pounds each. They are predators, eating anything smaller than they are. This includes other frogs, fish, birds, rodents, snakes, spiders, lizards, and anything else that's in its reach, which is a great pest control since they eat mice, venomous spiders, and venomous snakes. Foxes, raccoons, turtles, and some birds will eat these frogs. That's just the cycle of life for you. Male bullfrogs make a deep croaking that attracts a mate. Humans have mimicked these sounds to lure in female frogs when hunting them, and have been used as a signal calls by both the Native Americans and bootleggers. This could be 2 communities near each other with people who are coming in. It could be the bootleggers drawing attention away from an area that they didn't want people at. Or it could be used to scare off some city slickers who thought terrifying creatures are in the woods. Kinda makes me wonder if some backwoods man played a prank or two, and that's how we got these "I heard Bigfoot in the forest" stories. Now, we can't move on without talking about frog legs. Bullfrogs have been, and still are, hunted for their legs. Many states have regulations on what is allowed. I have not looked up all of the state laws, and this is just what I have learned from people who are hunting them. So I do not guarantee that this is legal in the area that you are writing about. Frogs are normally hunted at night. The reason why is that their eyes reflect light very well, and it makes it easier to spot them than trying to see a green frog in the green weeds of the pond. In modern times, this can be done with a flashlight or headlamp. Some people use nets to catch them. I remember my grandfather telling me stories about hunting them with his grandfather by torchlight. One person would get into the dugout canoe and hold the torch up by the shore, and the other person would go along with either a stick to smack it in the head or a frog gig. A gig is basically a trident-looking tool that can be used. They're normally attached to a stick and used similar to a spear. Nowadays, these can still be found along with guns to launch them from that are similar to harpoon guns. Crossbows can be used, and some people use .22 rifles. They also have a few, very few, who use blow dart guns. I stay away from this because the last time I accidentally shot someone in the backside with it. Oops. Next is the leopard frog. These frogs are smaller at about 2 to 4.5 inches. Their legs are just as yummy, but smaller. One thing that's good about having this kind around is that they eat insects, slugs, spiders, and things like this. This is the perfect helper to keep the water-based crops safe. Examples are wild rice and cattails. I even have a full episode on cattails if you'd like to learn more. Last of these three are tree frogs. They are small, between 1 to 2.5 inches. Yes, they also have edible but tiny legs. Wow, that felt weird to say. Your character should appreciate them, as they eat mosquitoes, flies, beetles, and other insects. Mosquitoes can carry diseases, so the fewer of them biting your character, the better. Now, before we move on, there are two things that you should know about frog legs. First, yes, they do taste like chicken legs. The difference is that they taste like a good amount of black pepper has been added to it. These are very common to eat in many places in America, even today. Now the best part. What happens if you just take the leg off and put it into a frying pan? Any ideas? Well, let me tell you. The leg will cook for roughly a minute or two, and then jump out of the pan. I am not kidding you. The cooking process causes the muscles to contract quickly, and it looks like it jumped right out of the pan. This is a very common prank. The way to stop this is by cutting the tendon before placing it into the pan. People who have done this will know. Others will not. Which one will your character be? A last note. Whatever parts of the frog that are not eaten can be used for fishing bait and to feed other animals. Cats love them, dogs too, and even chickens are happy to eat them. Yes, chickens are omnivores. Number 2, fish. Now this one is a sometimes animal. Some ponds have fish and some don't. There are a few ways that this happens. A pond could have been attached to a stream, and this is what is left of the fish that were trapped there when the stream dried up or moved. This one is common with floods and sometimes flash floods. The water can cut a new route that bypasses this area altogether. As in our case, a flood can come up from the river and over the pond. When the water went back down, the fish got stuck. In history, and even today, people sometimes catch fish from other locations and then release them into the pond. This can be done to add fish to the pond, but the story of our second pond, I'm told, this was before my parents were even born. A family member brought fish from the nearby river hoping to have dinner with the family. They weren't home, so they let the fish go into the pond because they could catch them later and they didn't want to waste the food. No one actually fishes in that pond, and the catfish are still in there to this day. Lastly, in modern times, but has happened in history too, people stock the pond. This means that they intentionally get fish from somewhere else and place them into the pond. Here, you can only buy native species, and no invasive species are allowed. In my area, the most common ones brought in are bass, catfish, bluegill, crappie, that is not an opinion, that's an actual name, minnows, carp, golden shiners, trout, perch, and sometimes even mosquito fish. Again, a real name. There are many reasons for this, but the most common is for food. Fish meat is yummy, high in protein, and can be smoked, dried, canned, or even fermented for long-term preservation. Although I don't know if I'm brave enough to eat fermented fish. It sounds ugly. All of which makes great items to barter and trade with, or simply to give as gifts. An upside of fishing is that it can be a passive way to hunt. This means they set up lines or fish traps and wait for the fish. This conserves energy, which is important for survival situations or for anyone with chronic illness, a physical disability that limits the energy, and would be great for travelers, such as hobos, who need energy for other things. The upside is that if there are water crops, fish not only eat algae, but insects and insect larvae. This not only kills mosquitoes, but other insects that could eat the plants. Not only that, but fish poop will fertilize the plants, helping them to grow. Not only does fish poop help the plants, but any part of the fish that your character doesn't eat can be used for fertilizer in their garden. Fish add nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, calcium, and magnesium. There is research that says they even add amino acids to the compost, helping feed the soil microbes. These microbes are vital in the process of breaking down organic waste. That's a fancy way of saying it's turning into compost. 2 points of caution. First, too many fish in the compost pile leads to nitrogen overload. This is not helpful. And second is to bury the fish well, or your character will be smelling rotten fish. I happen to know that some people will vomit at the smell. And a last farming note. Minnows and mosquito fish are both sometimes used in livestock watering tanks. They are placed there to eat the mosquito larvae in the water to help protect the livestock. Number 3. Birds. Birds are next on the list. These include the most commonly found at the pond and are not necessarily birds that swim. Here in my area, this includes ducks, herrings, turkey, geese, and numerous songbirds. We even see the occasional stork, but they're not common in my area. Why do they like the water? Because they all get thirsty. Now, many farmers and homesteaders and potentially people after the apocalypse let their birds drink from or swim in the pond. The swimming ones are ducks, geese, and swans. The non-swimming ones are chickens, domestic turkeys, and guinea fowl. I know from sad experience that chickens can drown if they can't very easily get out of the water. Normally, the non-swimming birds will peck around the edges, occasionally falling in if there's a steep area, but not often. They will eat the bugs and small fish they find. This is good for water crops because they eat the bugs that can eat the plant stalks. And because they poop, they fertilize the plants. If you haven't heard me say this before, chickens are little pooping monsters. Now, on top of the fact that birds are edible, your character can also get eggs from them. And I don't just mean the domesticated ones. But keep in mind, many wild birds fight back if they catch someone trying to steal their eggs. Geese have cartilage that are like tiny little spiky teeth, and it hurts when bitten by them. I know the hard way. Me and birds are not friends. They like to bite me. Now, after your character eats the bird, the leftover guts are often used for fishing or just to feed the fish. I've also seen them left out in the forest to attract a predator that people were hunting. In my case, back when I was little, it was because the predator kept attacking the chickens and rabbits of this farmer. That was his livelihood, and he was going to protect it. Number 4. Crayfish. Crayfish, here in the U.S., are also called crawfish, crawdads, and crawdads, depending on the dialect. To simplify what they look like tiny lobsters at 3 to 6 inches. They can be red, brown, blue, white, black, or green. Personally, I have never seen a red or green one, but I have seen the white and translucent ones that live inside of caves. They all have exoskeletons, which they shed as they grow, similar to the way that a snake sheds its skin, and you can randomly find these. Crawfish are used for food and are a traditional dish in the South, with crawfish boils at family get-togethers and even restaurants. This is a great way for your characters to have interactions, especially bonding and romantic ones. Crawfish can also be used as fish bait. This is very common when fishing for both bass and catfish. Some people even bait fish traps with crawfish. However, I don't personally find that it's the best for a trap, but it might work well in other areas. Some people use nets to catch them. I've heard of them being dug up in the winter months while they are hibernating, but your character would have to know where they hibernated at. Most people catch them by hand. This is done with a very quick catch, catching them on the back right behind the 2 pinchers. The reason is that they can't reach you with your pinchers when you grab them there. I know a ton of people who do this, my own kids included. Me, however, while I was a whirlwind of a kid, and if you gave me a stick and told me to take on a wild hog, I might have. But tiny swimming creatures with pinchers? Nope, not happening. A side note, if you read a story about a mutated pincher creature, my advice is to give it to someone who is not me. Number 5. Dragonfly. I bet you didn't see this one coming. Yes, these cute flying creatures can be great assets to every pond and your characters. Dragonflies live near clean water and are one of the best mosquito eaters out there. Dragonfly larvae lives in the water, and so does mosquito larvae. Dragonfly larvae, called nymphs, will hunt mosquito larvae and eat them. And adult dragonflies will hunt adult mosquitoes, eating hundreds of them per day. We all know how deadly illnesses transmitted by mosquitoes can be. This means they definitely want dragonflies to keep down the mosquito population. Let's go over the basics. Dragonflies live near fresh water on every continent except for Antarctica, with over 2,500 species. All dragonflies have 4 wings. They come in many colors: red, orange, yellow, green, black, and brown. Many of them have a metallic look to their color. The average size is 1 to 3.5 inches long, with a wingspan of 1 to 4 inches, depending on the species. These little flying bugs live for 1 week to 1 month in the adult stage. Now I hear you. But Allie, we're writers. We want to hear about the abnormal and extremes. Don't worry, I got you covered. A web search says that the smallest dragonfly is 0.59 inches, which is 15 millimeters long. While there seems to be conflicting information about whether the giant petal tail or the giant darner is the largest, both are roughly 5 inches long. However, if you're writing Planet of the Caveman era stories, you'll be interested to know that there are fossilized dragonflies who have 2-foot wingspans. Okay, technically that's prehistoric, but you could get away with writing that into a caveman era. There are also some dragonflies that live for up to 6 months in the adult stage. Now, before we get too far off topic, dragonflies can be eaten in survival situations, and a web search says that some cultures do. But I cannot find a single named culture that does. Nowadays, dragonflies are a popular feature on women's necklaces and wind chimes. They have become an insect loved by many women and children. Some people today, at least here in the US, believe that they bring good luck. They are also sometimes associated with beauty. But did you know they weren't always well loved? Ah, yes, the folklore about this one was interesting. Now, I grew up hearing that a dragonfly swarm meant rain was on the way. Side note, that's not true. It's just an old wives' tale. Some Native American tribes believed that dragonflies were dragons that had been tricked into shapeshifting into dragonfly form and became stuck in that form. There are tales out of Kansas, I'm not sure if it's from a tribe or from settlers, that said that dragonflies would sew up the mouths of lying children and scolded women. In Germany, they were linked to an evil princess. In Romania, they were linked to the devil. In most of Europe, they were also linked to the devil along with black magic. In Sweden, they were seen as an omen of tragedy about to happen. Now, if you live in these places and you're thinking I'm nuts, that's okay. My understanding is that much of this folklore was believed hundreds to thousands of years ago. The reason that I point these out is that they can be used against your characters. If in Europe and someone had a dragonfly land on the door, another character might take that as their evil. In Kansas, that would keep kids from lying. Just imagine the mother calling them over and saying, "No lying. They might hear you. You don't want the dragonflies to come for you." Yeah, that's going to leave a phobia. Now we have 3 very important notes that you need to know. First, fish and crayfish are both major food allergens. This means that they are one of the most common allergies and are the most likely to have a life-threatening reaction. While all the others can be something a person is allergic to, it is rare that a person is allergic to frogs, birds, or dragonflies. Secondly, we have to cover the religious aspects of some of these. In both Judaism and Islam, from my research, they do not eat frogs, most insects, or birds of prey because these are considered unclean. Judaism allows non-predatory birds like chickens and ducks, forbids shellfish, and only allows fish with scales. Off the top of my head, catfish would fall into the banned category because they have skin and not scales. Islam also forbids shellfish, and birds must be slaughtered properly to be eaten. Now, I see there are some weird things on the internet about what Christians can and can't eat. I am a Christian, so this is the only one that I can speak personally to. While there are some sects that follow the same traditions as Judaism, and there are a few that just seem to make stuff up as they go, the vast majority don't. I could do a whole episode on why, but I'll keep it simple. We follow the New Testament teachings about food. In Acts 15, it plainly states that Gentiles coming to follow Jesus, and a Gentile, in the oversimplification, is simply anyone who's not Jewish. They should not drink blood, eat strangled animals, or eat foods that have been offered to idols. Now, in Romans, it talks about if a person believes something is unclean, they should not eat it. I've seen these interpreted in a few ways. One being that God himself will let you know if something is unclean, and the second is personal choice, like a vow, or in some cases it's referred to as fasting from a specific thing for a period of time. These might be called different things, but it's essentially the same thing. Basically, a person decides that they will not eat, or sometimes drink, a specific thing for a period of time. That can be the rest of their life, a day, a week, year, or years, or until a certain thing happens. Now, this isn't stopping sugar to get skinny, but a religious reason behind it, whatever that may be. I know some people who do this because they feel that it's showing their obedience to God, and I know others who have said that they will not have this thing that they love to eat until their spouse or child is healed from an illness. Many people doing this don't go around telling anyone about it, but it's a quiet promise between them and God. While the religious aspect of this can be an act of worship and obedience, if a character who had been doing it stopped and started eating the thing that they believed was a sin, this would be an act of defiance or rebellion against their religion or against their God. Now, there's a difference in rebelling against a religious system than rebelling against God, but that's a discussion for not this podcast. Third up are that frogs, fish, dragonflies, and some birds will only live in clean water. If the water is too polluted, it will kill them. This can help your characters to find clean water. Equally, if fish start dying off in the water, your character would know that the water is not safe to drink, maybe even not safe to be close to. What happened to the dragonflies or the birds would make for an interesting plot point. Fun fact: Japan is sometimes referred to as the island of dragonflies. One quick thing before we get into all the ways things could possibly go wrong in your story. I promised an announcement on my last episode, so here we are. I will no longer be able to guarantee a weekly podcast. Oh, I will still be here and putting out new episodes. I love doing this podcast. However, I am struggling to put in the research that I want to into these episodes. I want to add more little nuggets of gold for you. Episodes like lightning strikes that hit characters, tracking skills, and how those skills can be used for other things, like tracking wayward chickens or children. I don't have an exact schedule yet, but I do believe that I can manage at least a bi-weekly with an occasional weekly episode. What I do know is that I will still be here and be bringing you new and interesting content, along with many personal stories about doing these things. Like the time I heard about putting out fires by removing the oxygen by putting a lid on it. I was about 8, and no one told me that the lid had to be non-flammable. I decided to try it with a mason jar candle in the bathroom, as one does. No, there was not a lid that came with the candle. Being the bright child that I was, I decided to use toilet paper over the top. It was big enough to fit with no place for oxygen to slip through. And when I did, it went out for about 3 seconds, and then the toilet paper caught on fire. So I yanked the toilet paper away from the candle and threw it toward the window, and the candle into the bathtub. I turned the water on to put out the candle, and that's when I realized the curtain was on fire. So there I was, trying to splash the curtain with both hands and put the candle under the water with one foot at the same time. I don't know how my mom didn't strangle me when she came home to find a flooded bathroom and a burned curtain. But hey, I saved the house. Now for everyone's favorite part, what could possibly go wrong in your story? Likely to go wrong. Your character is asked to cook frog legs. The person who gave them the legs wanted to pull a prank, and they didn't cut the ligaments on the legs. As the legs got hot in the skillet, they started to jump out, terrifying your character, who thinks they came back to life. Also likely to go wrong. Your character was trying to catch a crawfish. They moved too slowly and were pinched by the pincher. Ouch! Possible to go wrong. Your character catches the catfish. As they bring it out of the water, the catfish thrashes, and your character gets a barb in the hand. Catfish have many sharp barbs. Also possible to go wrong. Your character tries fish for the first time and has an allergic reaction. They will need to get help quickly, or this could be deadly. Unlikely to go wrong. Your character has found the only clean water pond for hundreds of miles after the apocalypse. They keep it a secret until wild geese find it while migrating. This leads others to follow the birds right to their pond. Also unlikely to go wrong. While duck hunting at the pond, your character comes face to face with predators also hunting the ducks. Improbable, but still technically in the realm of possibilities. Your caveman character is using a bullfrog call to communicate with others in their group as they move closer to their enemies. However, the enemy catches on and starts using the calls against them. Also improbable, but still technically in the realm of possibilities. Your character grew up hearing stories about evil dragonflies. As an adult, they have a horrible phobia of dragonflies. Thanks for listening. Until next time, happy wordsmithing!